Hello, my name is Matt Drewette-Card. I'm the Curriculum Director for MSAD 46, and this is a 2018-2019 legislative update regarding our Educator Effectiveness Plans system, i.e. our teacher evaluation and administrator evaluation. There's been a couple of changes over the last couple of years that I want to make sure, last year in particular, and now this year, there's some new things that are going to be coming down the pike for the 2019-2020 year that we wanted to make that you were aware of some of the changes that are both happened and will be happening upcoming. One of the best ways, if you don't want to get in touch with me or whatnot, to find information, to find any information on our educator effectiveness system is on our website, www.aos94.org. If you go to the central office tab and click down the menu, you'll see a page that says educator effectiveness. And on that page, what you will find is that there's a whole lot of information. You will see on the right all of the PEPG dates that are important, when windows open, when observation windows open, when they close, when you have to have all of your stuff in by. All those dates are right there on the website. Also a quick little couple cheat sheets for you to look at to be able to say what are the overall basics of the plan. Instead of having to read all 50 plus pages of the plan, what are the basics of what I need to know? There's more to the website as well. There are other links for educators, things like where you get the handbook, RSD scales, a template if you wanted to use that. Also, I wanted to point your attention to the steering committee agendas and minutes. This goes back to 2013. You can go and see and read all of those agendas and the minutes of the discussions that the steering committee have had from most recent to when we were just in the process of developing this whole system to begin with. You can contact the committee through this form that's embedded right on the website. You can also see right there on the right that we have a Google Classroom that if you wanted to get help, you wanted to get more details, and if you wanted to really dive deeper into some of the understanding, you can join this Google Classroom as long as you're a member of the AOS 94 Google domain. And you can join it, you can be a part of it, and we'll work together to help you figure out how to best understand the full depth of the system. A few other things on this website that are here for you. There are some other documents or other links, for example, like the approval letter from DOE, observation flowchart, etc. But also I wanted to point your attention to this list of video tutorials that are on there to support you, like digital citizenship, what are the observation scales, what do those mean, how to do an observation, a peer observation, the model, a 4-point scale, etc. Our SLO framework, so it doesn't have to be focused on this whole checklist of things. But this is all the stuff that's available for you on our website, available on www.aos94.org through our Educator Effectiveness page, because we want to make sure that the system is as transparent and open as it possibly can be for you. So let's get into the heart of what we're doing today, and that's a quick legislative update of what's happened or what will be happening. So in 2018, one of the major changes, or the real major changes that happened to our system was that another layer was added regarding peer observations and mentoring. This was for all educators, and what the committee did over the 2018-19 year is said we're going to pilot how we're going to do this, and over the course of the year figure out how it's going to be put into our system, what it's going to look like, what it's going to mean, what's important. And in the February 2019 minutes of our steering committee meeting, you'll see that the committee approved basically the following language, the following ways in which we're going to be doing peer observations. We're going to be leaving mentoring out of the PEPG Educator Effectiveness Plan because that belongs in its own bucket, its own place. But a formative peer observation includes observation of practice, goal setting, conferencing, reviewing of artifacts, pretty much anything that can be a peer observation. If you're in a faculty meeting and you are seeing peers sharing stuff that they are doing, they're showcasing some of their student work, some of their teaching, and they're having you evaluate that. That can be a peer observation. You can use that. You can use time when you're in a team meeting. You can use your time if you're going to do an observation of instruction. There are lots of different ways to do a peer observation. Okay, so I don't want you to be limited to be thinking that it only has to be classroom teaching. That's a great way of using it, and we highly encourage that, because that's one of the ways that teachers get better, is to see how other teachers are doing similar or even different things. But it's not the only way. it will say this, that any evaluator, any educator that's being evaluated summatively, which is, well, every evaluator, whether probationary or professional contract, is going to conduct and receive at least one formative peer observation. So you're going to do one and you're going to receive one. Everybody. That was what the committee decided will be part of our system from the 2019-2020 year and going forward. All formative peer observations will be completed using the iObservation platform, and they will all be non-evaluative. This was very important to the committee to make sure that the peer observations do not get to be part of the overall summative effectiveness rating at the end of the year. So what that basically means for you is you basically have to go and in the end of the year provide evidence that you've not only given and conducted a peer observation, but you've received one as well when you're doing your final summative effectiveness conference with your evaluator. So that's basically what the observations mean. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Bottom line for you, the educators, is that you have to both conduct one and receive one. So that was the big update for 2018, this last year, 18-19. So let's go into the 2019 legislative year. The 129th legislative session has been going since January or so 2019, and there have been 4 bills that came forward regarding a teacher evaluation, educator effectiveness this past session. A lot more this session and that have been seen than in previous years. So I want to do a quick recap of each of those. And they are LD 729, an act regarding probationary period for teachers, LD 92, an act to amend teacher evaluation requirements, LD 345, an act to help new teachers succeed, and LD 1338, an act to protect teachers from unfair evaluations. So starting off at LD 729, not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. This was unanimous, ought not to pass from the committee, meaning they said no thanks, and this bill is dead. What it basically did is it said that a teacher who's done a 3-year probationary period in one district doesn't have, and if they move to a new district, doesn't have to do the 3-year probationary. They only have to do 1 year. The Education and Cultural Affairs Committee did not like this. They voted unanimously ought not to pass, and it did not. This bill is dead. Okay, so this is not happening. But that was one of the things that got brought up. One of the big changes that happened this year is this has been signed into law on April 11, 2019 by Governor Janet Mills. LD 92, an act to amend teacher evaluation requirements. And there's 2 major areas that this bill changed in our teacher evaluation law. The first is that the steering committee structure changed so that it has to be made up of a majority of teachers who are appointed by the local collective bargaining unit, and that all decisions must be reached by consensus. This is very important, and I know that our local education association has already gone through this process. A lot of teachers have already selected, and in fact, by the time of this recording, we've already had our first meeting and defined our definition, our consensus definition, so how we're going to make decisions going forward. And you can find those notes in the May or June agendas that you can find on the website. So that's the one thing. The steering committee has to be a consensus-driven and a majority of teachers. And that goes into effect technically September 2019. That law, it becomes law. Everyone has to do that. There was a second part to this bill, and it was regarding student growth. This, in our language, in our system, this is our SLOs, our student learning objectives, and the MEA scores, the Empower and SAT scores. Right now, we have 15% of the overall criteria for our summative effectiveness as student growth. Technically, 12.5% of that is the SLO and 2.5% of that is the MEA. However, a wrinkle in our plan said that we would not be actually using the MEA as part of that 15% until the assessment was considered valid and reliable. And since it's only been a couple of years since this assessment has been in play, we haven't actually used that as any part of our assessment, any part of our criteria. It's really only been the SLOs. And the committee will be looking at the effectiveness or the validity and reliability of the assessment in the 2019-2020 school year, as it would have been 3 years now of implementation. So, what the student growth factor does, the change in here in this particular bill, was that it removed the significant factor language. In the original language of the bill, it said that student growth had to be a significant factor. And not many people really knew what that was. But the DOE came out and said, well, we're not going to give you a specific percentage, but it's going to be like between 15 and 20%, at the minimum. I know some districts used like 40 or 50% as student growth. Our district, our committee chose 15%. And we got that approved. But this removes the significant factor language from the bill, from the requirement. And it also makes all of the growth measures optional in the education plan, both the MEA scores and the SLO scores. So this is a decision that the committee is going to be tackling over the next 2 years. And I say that because this part of the bill does not go into effect until September 1st, 2021. People may have heard things like this out there in the media, that all student growth is now either gone or eliminated or optional. And whereas technically that's true, the law still requires us to keep the significant factor and student growth mandate language is still in the bill and still in statute until September 1st, 2021. So we have to keep it in there until at least that point. But the committee will be looking forward towards, in the next couple of years, to figuring out how we're going to deal with student growth. So that's a quick snippet of LD 92. Another bill signed into law on May 20th, 2019 by Governor Mills is LD 345, an act to help new teachers succeed. Very basic bill here. This was really all about making sure that new teachers, if their contract was not being renewed, that they had plenty of time to have that notice. They can't just be let known at the last minute. They have to be given in writing before May 15th. And teachers on a professional contract have to be informed of their contract non-renewal at least 6 months before their contract expires. And if a teaching position is eliminated and results in elimination, the school board has to give at least 30 days notice. So if you're on a professional staff, if the teaching position is eliminated, you're given at least 3 months notice. If just your contract is being cut or your contract is being eliminated, being non-renewed, you have to be given at least 6 months worth of information, be notified of that 6 months in advance. All right, so that's LD 345. And our final bill, legislative update, that's going to make another little change to how we do our system is LD 1338, signed into law on June 13th, 2019. It's an act to protect teachers from unfair evaluations. Now, this was all about the use of effectiveness ratings. And this is a new language. There's two different parts to this. There's what the superintendent can do and what the teachers can do. So what the superintendent can do is they may use effectiveness ratings of educators to inform human capital decision making, including but not limited to recruitment, selection, induction, mentoring, PD, compensation, assignment, and dismissal. So it can be a part of the decision, the effectiveness ratings at the end of the year. That's what the superintendent can do. What the teacher can do is a little bit different. The teacher can appeal or file a grievance upon receipt of the summative effectiveness rating. If the teacher gets this rating of ineffective for 2 consecutive years, which constitutes just cause for renewal, the teacher can now file a grievance, can make an appeal. If, and here's a big if here, there wasn't an appeal or a grievance process before, but now there is one. So they can go ahead and do this if they're ineffective ratings for 2 consecutive years, and those ratings are being used as just cause for non-renewal of a contract. You can file an appeal if there's not a reasonable basis for the effectiveness rating to demonstrate that, and the evaluation process leading to the effectiveness rating has not been performed in a manner reasonably consistent with the approved system and department rules, and the effectiveness ratings are the result of bad faith. So, whereas an appeal and a grievance can happen, it's a steep hill to climb. Those 3 things need to happen. I've looked carefully at the statute, and there's not an or statement in there. They are and statements, which means all of those things need to happen. A teacher does not have the right to an appeal or grievance of a summative effectiveness rating unless the summative effectiveness rating is used by the teacher's employer as a basis for disciplinary action. And a teacher may provide a written response to any summative effectiveness rating issued to the teacher. If you get all 4s, all 3s, all 2s, all 1s, all NAs, you can still provide a written response. And that response must be attached and made part of that overall summative effectiveness rating and overall evaluation. So that's the end of it. That was what we have for in terms of different laws for our 2018-2019 legislative update. Again, if you want to keep apprised of all of our information where we are, I would say go to the Educator Effectiveness page on aos94.org, and that's where you will find all of the updated and relevant information regarding our Educator Effectiveness plan for both teachers and building administrators. Thank you for watching this. My name is Matt Drewette-Card, Curriculum Director for MS 8046. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day, wherever it may be and wherever it may take you.